so I can get it to you. Hey y'all, happy to see everybody today. I'm here with Jonathan Kemmerer with Odd Bird Farm in Deklab, Missouri. We have an exciting announcement for all you guys. It's no secret that Jonathan has an incredibly technical mind. Those of you that heard him speak at the conference, it was really some incredible information that he had in regards to the Meishan and the things that would help us all make the best decision that we can as farmers. So I've been working with Jonathan behind the scenes for a few months now, probably longer than that, actually, Jonathan. And so what we have come up with as far as in terms of the AMBA, so I'd like to announce that effective essentially today, that Jonathan Kemmerer is our new AMBA head of research. So yeah, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we've got a couple projects in the works, y'all, in terms of what we're going to bring to y'all with these recorded Zoom calls. We've got some opportunities coming up that if your membership is active, you'll be getting some personal emails there where you can join us essentially live on some of these calls as well and get some, what would you call it, Jonathan? Ahead of questions, pre-questions. What am I'm lost for words.
We have some interviews set up with people who spent some time researching the pigs. I'm trying to tailor this to what would be helpful to breeders, so we definitely want your input.
Okay, fantastic. Well, without me stumbling over my words anymore today, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jonathan. Tell everybody some history about you and some things that I think make you incredibly ideal for this help with the association.
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Jonathan Kemmerer. I grew up in the Kansas City area. I grew up in the suburbs in the city, but I spent a lot of time on my grandparents' farm as a kid. My dad works in agribusiness and he grew up on the farm. And so as a little kid, I wanted to live in the country and just have a bunch of animals. But as I got older, as a teenager, I got interested in music. So I went to music school in Nashville after high school. Got interested in academics really broadly. So I ended up getting a degree in French because under that banner, I was able to study, history, philosophy, literature, business and economics, and kind of whatever I wanted. After college, I wasn't interested in doing any of that for a living. I had done a study abroad program and lived in France for a year. And I got really interested in food and wine. So I actually went to work in restaurants. After my first restaurant job, after 2 years, by the time I left, I was working 7 nights a week, either in the kitchen or out on the floor. I had like an entry-level sommelier certification, which is like an expertise in wine. I went and worked at a wine bar in Kansas City that at any time had about 50 wines by the glass on the list and like a 20-page wine list. And it was through them that I got to go back to France. And I went to the region of Burgundy and just traveled village by village, meeting winemakers and grape growers. And then I worked on a farm in Western Burgundy. And this was more of like kind of a research farm, but they make food specifically for like really great chefs and really high-end restaurants. And the person who owned it owned a distribution company. So not only was he growing vegetables, he was also sourcing meats and cheeses and wine and stuff like that for really great chefs in Paris. And it was through that I learned about, heritage breeds and heirloom seeds and, all the methods that you take when you're interested in making a really high quality product as opposed to, commercial high yield kind of thing. And so that got me really interested in agriculture again, like I had as a child. So I came back to the United States and I did a sustainable ag program at the local community college and learned about soil health and plant health and things like that. I got hired at a vineyard in the Kansas City area as a vineyard manager, and a pretty unique one. The vineyard is centered around trying to, there was a grape breeder in northern Texas in the late 1800s that bred hundreds of varieties specifically for the Midwest by breeding back to a lot of the native varieties in the United States. Unfortunately, he published his work right around the time of Prohibition, and so it didn't really catch on. And so the purpose of this vineyard was to keep going his work and to keep those lines around, but also to do research on them and see how they differ and what they can do. And so part of my work there was actually USDA grant funded research. on the physiology of grapevines. I started my own farm in 2017, late 2017. I got my first pigs from Rico in 2018 and took the trip down there to meet him. The pigs I brought back were the second most diverse herd outside of the original seed herd for a many number of years. And yeah, I also have a research project on the farm through the North American Fruit Explorers. They got me a grant to get some really interesting grapevines, and I because of that, I was labeled as a researcher by the USDA, and so that allowed me to acquire more grapevines through the USDA. And so that's an ongoing project on the farm. But I've also had a lot of experience with the Meishans. So like I said, I got my pigs in 2018. I had 2 bred gilts, a sow, 3 young gilts, and a boar. So I had my first litter about 6 weeks after I brought my pigs home. And I've just been going from there. Because of my background in restaurants, my first sales were to some of the really great restaurants in the Kansas City area. I was supposed to have a distribution deal, but that kind of fell through when COVID hit, as did all my restaurant sales. So kind of shifted things around, and I was able to get into a really great farmers market. We were nominated best market in the country this year. We see maybe 10,000 people on a good Saturday. And the reason I got in there was because of the Meishans. It was something that was really unique. There's a very long list of people trying to get into this market. And it was, thanks to the Meishans that I was able to do that. But what that also allowed me to do was to just have a lot of experience with the pigs. I mean, I was mostly a meat market producer. I didn't really sell a lot of stock, though I'm starting to get to the point where I am now that I feel like I know what I'm doing with them. Early on, I didn't have a lot of experience. I had no experience raising pigs. So my first couple of years, I didn't want to sell a lot of stock. I felt like I really needed to do the work in figuring out what I had and what I wanted to do with it. But because I had a large meat market and a wide, range of genetics on the farm, I was able to try a lot of different crosses with a lot of different lines and then see how they work all the way to the end. And I feel like that's helped me get a good eye as a breeder on what I'm doing. But that being said, I understood that it was really important to understand these pigs, and that we were in a really unique place, in that, some of the first breeders like Laura and I, and we didn't have farmers that we could reach out to and talk to about, their experience with these pigs. And so I looked at the research, because they are one of the most researched pigs in America. And now that we're 5 years into it, we kind of want to help offer that experience to new breeders, what we didn't have and what we've learned over the years, and kind of what the research shows. I do think I'm starting to get a pretty unique herd. If you've seen my video on the AMBA YouTube about how I raise the pigs, I rely on a lot of alternative feeds. And a lot of pasture and a lot of that sort of thing. And what I figured out from that is that, all pigs grow slower on a less perfect diet, but some can do it better than others. And trying to exploit that difference is kind of how I've built my breeding program. But yeah.
Fantastic. I know you touched on it just a little bit, and I know that I've talked about it. The AMBA, it truly blows my mind about how all of us have come together. There's people with different types of expertise that all help all of us succeed. And I think that this is another example of that, with your background and your knowledge and the ability to do that. And I would also add that it's important, I think, to both of us and a lot of our other members, that we're not here to dictate how you do it. Really and truly, I tell people, we're writing the book right now. We're figuring out the Meishan, we're figuring out what it looks like on pastures in America. And you got to do what you think is best for you and your herd. And ultimately, I think that's what this is about, is to educate more people about what we know to be the facts and the history of the Meishan, so that they can make the best educated decision for their herd and their pigs that they can.
Yeah, and you make a great point about we're still writing the history, and I think that's a large part of it, is that the decisions breeders are making right now has a big impact on what the breed's going to be in the future, and we want to, help them have the tools to make the best decisions they can.
Yeah, absolutely. So y'all, if you want to reach out with questions, if you don't know how to contact us, we have our website, meishanbreeders.com. You can email us through that. There's the Gmail account, ambameishan@gmail.com. We have 3 Facebook pages. We have the American Meishan Breeders Association page. And then we also have the American Meishan Breeders Association forum. The forum is to talk about registered stock. You don't have to be AMBA members to be a part of those, but if you have registered stock questions or concerns or something available, you can post it there. And then our other group, which is equally as large, is kind of our catch-all Meishan group. And that one is called Make Mine Meishan Pigs. And that's where you'll find Jonathan, myself, and pretty much every other long-term AMBA member that's on Facebook is there, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great resource. I think I wish I would have had it when I was starting out, because I think we make an effort, not to tear people down, not to make people intimidated. We want you to come to us with questions, and we want you to succeed, because that's what it takes for the breed to succeed as a whole.
Yeah, I agree with that. So all right, well, I look forward to getting your questions. I think Jonathan does too. Just give us a shout out and we'll keep these videos coming. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.